Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Isidora and Cristina were best friends. They were together always and everywhere. It so happened that the girls lived in the same building. It was somewhere in the suburbs of the capital. They have been friends since they were kids. They went to the same school, did their homework together, then went to discos together. But still, there was a slight difference between the girls. Cristina was always well-dressed in fancy dresses. With makeup, she always styled her hair, but Isidora used to dress modestly and hardly ever used any makeup. She was a humble, quiet girl. "How much longer do I have to wait for you?" Cristina stood near her friend's gate and shouted at her through the window. "Just a minute, I'll wash the dishes and then be ready," Isidora said calmly. She didn't want to go anywhere at all, but she could never refuse her friend. And her mom told her to stick with Cristina. "EW, what are you wearing again?" A friend was looking at Isidora grudgingly. "Just a normal dress." "What's wrong with it?" She really didn't understand her friend's displeasure. "We're not going to the library, we're going to a disco." Cristina giggled, raising her head proudly and walking ahead of her friend. Isidora always tolerated her friend's teasing and didn't say anything back. At school, the girls were together, but it seemed like they were always apart. Cristina was the most popular girl at the school, and Isidora was some kind of her servant. She let Cristina copy her homework, helped her to cheat on tests, and if Cristina needed something, she found it and brought it to her. Sometimes she even carried Cristina's bag. "Isidora, you're like Cristina's personal maid," the boys laughed at her. "Leave me alone. You just don't know what a real friendship is," she turned her back on them. For some reason, she wasn't offended. The girl really took their communication for a real mutual friendship. She believed that now she was helping Cristina, and someday Cristina would help her. When the girls were in high school, Cristina could not talk about anything except going to the best university in the capital. "Look at this dress." She was showing some fancy dress in a new magazine. "Why do you need so many dresses? You need to think about other things, about education, about relatives, about something vital," her friend said in response. "You don't understand anything. When we come to the capital from the province, everyone will immediately understand that we are from a small town." Cristina pouted her lips and turned away from her. "Believe me, no matter what dress you wear, it's still clear that you're not from the capital," Isidora reproached her. "Well, let's just see who will be successful in the capital and who won't," the fashionista continued, flipping through magazines. They could spend hours together. All the time Cristina talked nonstop about how she would come to the capital, what she would do there, how she would study, and what kind of husband she would have. "Actually, I don't understand why I even need to study. I will go to the capital, find a rich guy, marry him, and live happily," Cristina reasoned like many silly girls. "Do you think that all the rich guys are waiting for some silly suburban girl?" Her friend laughed in response. "What do you even understand in this? Have you ever kissed a guy?" She frowned her eyebrows. "Maybe, but that's none of your business." Isidora didn't want to talk about it. They argued every day. But even after that, Isidora couldn't understand why she was going to the capital. To find a husband? Maybe. In the 11th year of school, the girl's mother became very ill. She took care of her mom, bought medicines, and cooked. When the woman recovered, it was time to prepare for final exams. "Why do you always stay at home, as if you are 50 and not 17 years old?" Cristina told her every day. "Do you think people in their 50s are always at home?" Isidora replied calmly. "Well, I don't know. But now we are young. It's the best time to go out, go to discos, date guys," the girl was spinning on the spot. "You can go to discos, on dates, wherever you want, but I have to prepare for exams." Isidora averted her gaze. At the end of May, it was time for exams, and Cristina came to Isidora. "I'm afraid." She told her. "Of what?" "Of exams. I don't know anything, I didn't have time to prepare. You know, time flew by so fast." Well, there's still a couple of days left. Open your textbooks and read, her friend suggested. Isidora, please make cheat sheets for me, her friend begged her. Okay, I'll try. She sighed and went home. The girl spent the whole night trying to write cheat sheets so that it would be both small and legible, in case Cristina didn't understand something. After the exam, they had to go to the capital to apply to university. Cristina didn't care which university to apply to and which faculty. The main thing was to go to the capital with her best friend. I'm not going anywhere. What if Mom gets sick again? Isidora told her. What are you talking about? Mommy. Your mom will be fine. You can call her every day. If something goes wrong, you'll get on the train and visit her, the girl said nervously. Okay, I'll think about it, Isidora said. Sweetheart, you should go to the capital with Cristina. Everything will be fine with me. I feel much better already. You have your whole life ahead of you. What will you do in this town? Here you can't even find a decent job, but in the capital, you have a chance for a normal future. But Mom, Isidora wanted to say something. Don't even try to argue with me. I said, pack your luggage and go with Cristina, the woman insisted. Isidora had to agree. So she and Cristina enrolled in the same university. They settled into the dormitory and university life began. Isidora, let's go to the club tonight. I was there yesterday with the girls. It's fun, and there are lots of handsome guys. Club in the middle of the week? Let's do our homework first and learn everything. We can go to the club on the weekend, she answered. Isidora, you never change. Stop thinking about your studies and your mom and think about yourself. You should have fun while you're young, she said over and over again. How will you pass your exams? The girl asked the question, already knowing what the answer would be. Aren't you going to help me make cheat sheets for me? Cristina asked, pretending to be offended. You know I'll always help you. Why do you even ask? Isidora averted her eyes. Well, then I'll definitely pass all my exams. Cristina didn't understand what her friend was so worried about. Okay, now you'll pass the exams with my help. But what are you going to do in the future? I won't be by your side all your life, Isidora spoke to her in a different way. How do you know? Maybe you'll be there for me for the rest of my life. Cristina was living life to the fullest. She knew what she wanted and pursued her goal. Every day the girl went to clubs, had fun with some guys, and came home in an inadequate state. Her roommate tolerated it all. Isidora helped her cheat on tests, prepared cheat sheets for her best friend, cleaned their room, cooked, and did the laundry for both of them. But everything had to come to an end someday. So? You've already had so many guys. Which one is your destiny? Isidora said to her once. You don't know anything about it. Cristina was sitting on her bed. It was obvious that she didn't understand anything after another party, and all she needed was sleep. After passing all the exams, Cristina was almost kicked out of the university, but her roommate helped her to retake all the exams. After the exams, Isidora was going home to her hometown. Are you going home? She asked Cristina. What am I supposed to do there, work in a vegetable garden and milk a cow? What do you mean? Your parents are there. Think of your mother. She hasn't seen you for so long. The girl didn't understand Cristina. So what? My mom can take care of herself, Cristina said indifferently. Isidora didn't listen to anyone. She packed her suitcase and went to her mom. Mom was really getting better. She was happy about her daughter's success. Everything seemed to be going well for them. Tell me, how are you doing there? Did you see the capital? Tell me, what did you see in the capital? Did you like it there? Marta asked her daughter. Mom, I've hardly been anywhere in the capital. We have so much homework that I hardly leave the room, she complained to her. I see. How's Cristina doing? she asked. She is fine, the girl answered one-wordedly. She didn't want to talk about what her friend was doing in the Capitol. I get it, I guess you just don't want to talk about it. Her mom figured it out right away. While Isidora was at home, she helped her mother around the house, in the vegetable garden, and with the livestock. There weren't that many livestock anymore, and the vegetable garden wasn't that big anymore because her mom was already very weak and Isidora couldn't help her all year round. At the end of August, she returned to the Capitol for the next academic year. Goodbye, my dear. Call me when you can, her mother saw her off at the train station. Of course. Goodbye, Isidora said and got on the train. When the girl arrived at the dormitory, Cristina was asleep on the bed. Geez, Cristina, look what you've become. She woke her up. I'm fine, Cristina said. She was wearing bright makeup, a short skirt, and a top. The clothes were so short that it looked like she was naked. Isidora sighed and started cleaning up the room and unpacking her stuff. Isidora, what are you doing? The room's clean enough, Cristina said, not understanding what she was doing. Are you serious? This room's about to turn into a dumpster. Her friend stopped and looked at her. Listen. I'll tell you something incredible. The girl drank some water and looked at her friend as if she wanted to tell her some secret. I'm listening. Isidora sat down opposite her. Recently, I was in a nightclub and I met a cool guy there. He's studying somewhere, too. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that his parents are rich and he has a fancy car. I need to charm him somehow as soon as possible, and then I won't have to worry about anything and I'll never have to work. If we get married, I'll be living in a fairy tale. She folded her fingers in rings. Well, congratulations, Isidora shrugged, stood up and continued cleaning. You're not even going to say anything to me? Cristina didn't understand her friend. What should I say? I'm glad you finally found someone you're ready to build a serious relationship with. Isidora hasn't thought about dating yet, much less about marriage. That's not the answer I expected from you. You don't change, Isidora, she said as if she were offended by her friend's words. Cristina didn't know why she was angry. Perhaps she was jealous of Isidora, but she couldn't confess it. So, are you going to the club with me tonight? Cristina asked her once when it was the time for exams in the second year. You know I don't go to nightclubs. But Cristina turned to her. Please, Isidora. Diego's coming tonight. He'll be there with his friends, and I don't want to be there alone, she begged her. All right. But I'll only come for about an hour, and then I'll go home, she said, not believing that she had agreed. As Isidora got dressed, Cristina looked at the one she was supposed to go to the party with tonight. So, are you really going to wear that? She pointed from top to bottom at her clothes. It's just a dress. You always hate everything I wear, Isidora said calmly. But we're going to a nightclub. Wear something more modern. Do you want me to give you some of my clothes? She said. No, I'm okay with my own clothes, Isidora insisted. All right, as you wish, Cristina rolled her eyes. When she realized in high school that her friend was shy and quiet, from that moment on she used the saying about an ugly friend. And in fact, all the guys looked only at Cristina. If Isidora was going to go to the club tonight in some old-fashioned ugly clothes, Cristina was glad of it. So, compared to Isidora, she'll look stunning. They arrived at the club where Isidora was for the first time. The music was playing too loudly. Cristina immediately dragged her friend to the bar and ordered some cocktails. I don't want to drink any alcohol, her friend muttered. Come on, we're in a club. Look, everyone is drinking cocktails here. Cristina looked around. You know that I don't drink alcohol. I'll feel terrible, the girl said. Okay, no problem, then I'll drink yours too. She took her glass and moved it closer. Suddenly Isidora saw several guys walking towards them. Hi. Cristina immediately started acting differently. Oh, hey girls. The guys came over and ordered some cocktails too. After that, everyone headed to the dance floor, but Isidora stayed near the bar. She was sitting and just watched how people were behaving here. "So, are you coming with us tonight?" Diego shouted in Cristina's ear. "No, we have to go to the dormitory. We have a lot of homework to do," she told him, trying to look smart. "What homework? What are you talking about?" He didn't understand. But Cristina decided to play the role of a decent girl, so he doesn't think she's only interested in his money. "Well, you know, you can't achieve anything in this life without a good education. You have to learn first, and then think about everything else." She remembered what Isidora, her mother, and everyone else had told her. "Wow. I thought you were just like everyone else, just partying in clubs and skipping classes," he laughed at her. "No, Diego, I'm not like that," she answered him. "Okay." He immediately walked away from her and headed back to the bar. He looked at Isidora, who was sitting there, rolled his eyes, and turned away. "Diego, come on, are you mad at me?" Cristina approached him from behind. "There's nothing to talk about with you," he answered her over the music. "What do you mean?" She didn't understand. "I invited you to a party, but you're talking about some bullshit. If you don't want to go, then we're not on the same page." "But life isn't that simple," she pretended to be someone else. "You know, I can invite any other girl, and she'll follow me anywhere, even to the ends of the earth," he told confidently. "Oh, come on, don't flatter yourself," she answered. "Do you want me to prove it?" he asked. "Yes, prove it. But what if they refuse you?" Cristina looked at him slyly. "That's not going to happen." He didn't doubt himself. "All right. Then let me choose the girl you should seduce," she answered. "Sure, choose any of them." The guy didn't care which girl she picked. "That girl over there at the bar," the girl nodded her head without turning around. "But, that's your friend." "Yes, that's my friend." "But you said yourself that any girl would follow you." "You know, she's even more of a nerd than I am. Try to seduce her." "Or you're not sure anymore?" Cristina was 100% sure that Isidora wouldn't fall for his charms. "Okay. But don't get in the way, okay?" he said. "I promise not to get in the way," Cristina said, and immediately went to the dance floor. Diego got up from his chair and walked over to Isidora. "Hi," he said, looking at her. "Hi," she looked around. "Why are you alone? Are you bored?" he asked. "No, I'm not bored. But the music's playing too loud." "I guess I'll go home now," the girl said calmly. "Can I walk her home?" Diego was willing to do anything, he just needed her to go with him. "What do you mean?" "You're here with Cristina." She looked over to where the girl was dancing. "Which Cristina?" "Oh, that one." "No, we're just friends," he answered. "All right," Isidora felt embarrassed. "So, are we going or not?" He gestured for her to go. "Sure." She looked in the direction where her friend was dancing and headed towards the exit with the guy. Cristina continued to dance, but she was keeping an eye on Diego and Isidora. She smiled and thought that he wouldn't get anything. Diego and Isidora were walking through the night city streets. He told her different stories, made jokes, and smiled sweetly at her. "I think I talk too much. Tell me something about yourself," he asked. "There's not much to tell. I'm just a girl from a small town who came to the capital to study at university. That's it." She became more and more embarrassed. "I see." He thought Cristina was right, her friend was an incredibly boring nerd. When they reached the dormitory, he wanted to hug her, but Isidora pulled away. "What are you doing?" she asked awkwardly. "Why?" "I just wanted to kiss you on the cheek," he said calmly. "Not today, I don't even know you," she told him, pulling him away and running into the dormitory. Her cheeks were burning, her hands were trembling. Isidora went into her room, put on her pajamas, and lay down on her bed, but she couldn't fall asleep. She kept thinking about Diego. The girl had never communicated with boys or dated anyone, and she didn't even think about kisses. It was weird to her that the guy Cristina liked so much was hitting on her. After a while, Cristina came home. The light was off in the room, so Isidora pretended to be asleep so she didn't have to talk to her. The winter exams were coming up, and after that, everyone could go home. Isidora couldn't wait for winter break. Diego started visiting her every day. He would bring her flowers or teddy bears and asked her out, but they hardly ever went out. Isidora felt embarrassed and refused. A week before the exams, she asked him not to visit her for a while. Diego, I have to prepare for my exams, so I guess we can't see each other for a while. Isidora struggled to find the right words. But why? The guy couldn't believe that this nerd didn't fall for his charm. But he has to prove to Cristina that he can win this nerd over. Okay, get ready for the exams, and then call me when you're free, he told her. Cristina stopped talking to her friend. Cristina, come on. What happened? Isidora told her. Nothing. But you knew I liked this guy. But you started dating him anyway. How could you? I thought we were friends. I'm sorry. He just walked me home that night and convinced me you were just friends. She tried to justify herself. Yeah, friends. Cristina rolled her eyes again. The exams were over and Isidora went home as usual. She had to visit her mother. At home, the girl told her mom that she had met a nice guy and that now they were about to start a relationship. Oh, dear, if he's from a rich family, then beware of him. He can use you and leave you. Maybe for him, it's not a big deal, but you'll suffer. Her mom said. I know everything. But I can't. You have no idea how nice he is, the girl said about Diego. They're all nice until they get what they want, Marta almost cried. After the winter break, the girl went back to the dormitory. Diego started visiting her every day again. One day he invited her to a party out of the city. I'm not sure I want to go there, Isidora told him. On the one hand, she really wanted to spend time with Diego. On the other hand, she was shy and afraid that there would be a lot of strangers there. But eventually, the girl agreed, and they went out of the city that weekend. Diego was very polite. He introduced her to all his friends. Then they spent a long time sitting on the swing, and then Diego started kissing Isidora. At first, she pulled away from him, but he looked her in the eyes in such a way that the girl gave in. He pulled her against him and kissed her again, then picked her up in his arms and headed inside the house. Isidora realized what was going on, but she couldn't resist because she really liked this guy. He put her on the couch and started kissing her, and she felt as if someone was electrocuting her. She was lying and couldn't move. After everything was over, he got up and immediately left the house. She stayed there for a while, waiting for him to come back, and then got up, got dressed, and went out. Everyone was sitting in the gazebo, and when she got there, the first thing Diego asked her was what she was doing there and why wasn't she going home. Why? You've invited me here. She looked at him in confusion. Me? Invited you? A nerd like you? The boy laughed out loud. What's wrong with you? She didn't understand. Nothing's wrong with me, but what's wrong with you, you nerd? Diego mocked her. Isidora felt so offended. She realized that Diego had used her and left her. There was a reason her mom had told her to be careful dealing with these rich guys. She ran out of the gate, not sure where to go. There were no cars around. She walked down the road. Tears rolled from her eyes. The girl got to the city without knowing what to do. She was in the dormitory only in the morning. She didn't go to the university today. It was the first time she skipped classes. Cristina wasn't in the dormitory, but that didn't upset the girl at all. She didn't want to see anyone right now. Isidora took a shower, changed her clothes, packed her suitcase, and went home. Now she needed to talk to her mom, to cry, and never see Diego or Cristina again. The next evening, Diego was already at the dormitory. He called Cristina and told her everything. He said he could even provide evidence and witnesses if he needed to. "No, even one word from you is enough for me," she laughed. "So, are you going to join me tonight? And you'll use me just like my shy friend?" She answered, "Come on. I did all this just to be with you." He looked her in the eyes. "Okay, we'll see. Come back this weekend. By the way, where is she?" "I have no idea. I did everything you asked and don't need her anymore," he answered. "A guy picked up a girl on a weekend. First, they drove around the city, then they picked up some friends and headed to the club. They spent the night at the club, and then he took Cristina home. Since we are already friends, why don't you introduce me to your parents?" she asked. With a parent, the guy clarified. "What do you mean?" Cristina looked at him. "My mom died when I was 13. I live with my father," he explained. "Well, okay." With a parent, Cristina shrugged. She didn't care. All she needed was to become part of this family. Diego really liked Cristina, and he thought, why not? Why not introduce her to his father? Perhaps his father will treat him differently if Diego starts a serious relationship. He promised the girl that soon he would talk to his father, and after that invite her to dinner. "Why don't you simply introduce me to him?" Cristina asked. "No, my father is a businessman. We can't just come to him without scheduling a meeting. I have to warn him," Diego said, as if justifying himself. "That's okay, I'll wait," she smiled. He came home. Father wasn't there, as usual. Marietta was in the kitchen. This young woman was helping them with the housekeeping. She didn't like to be in the house alone with Diego. "Hey, Marietta, is dinner ready?" He approached her from behind and touched her on the butt. "Diego, please don't do that," she replied irritably. "What did I do?" He didn't understand. "You know what you did." She turned away and went to the kitchen. "Do you know when my father is coming?" He followed her. "No. He doesn't inform me," she answered without looking at Diego. "All right, I'll wait. I want to take my fiancée home," Diego said cheerfully. "Oh, I wonder who looked at you." Marietta was pulling out the dishes. "Why do you ask? Am I so ugly?" "Nope. But you're like a beautiful apple. Beautiful on the outside, but wormy on the inside," she told him. After that, Marietta put something on a plate and took it to the table. "Thanks." Diego mumbled and began to eat. A couple hours later, his father came home. He saw that his son was already home and smiled. "Wow." He came up to him. Diego loved his father, but lately, their relationship got messed up. "You came home for dinner for the first time in years," Otilio said. "I just have some news for you," Diego told him. "I'm listening, go ahead." The man was sure that his son was going to beg for money or something. "I met a girl," he said. "Well, go on. She's pregnant or what? Need money for an abortion?" The man speculated. "Why do you start talking like that?" Diego didn't understand him. "You never bring anything good to the house. That's why I wonder why you're telling me this." Otilio said hello to Marietta, washed his hands, and sat down at the table. The woman immediately began to serve dinner. "Dad, I really need to talk to you. I met Cristina at the club. I don't deny that we met there, but, believe me, she's a very nice girl," Diego said. He glared at his father. "So do you want to introduce her to me?" Now Otilio was smiling. "That's what I tried to tell you. But you never listened to me. All right, calm down. Invite your girlfriend over for dinner. I'd love to meet her. I don't mind you getting married. And I would be happy to have grandchildren. We need heirs." His father said calmly. "Okay, if you agree, next weekend, come home in time for dinner. Cristina and I will be here." Diego was so happy that his father didn't discourage him, but agreed to meet Cristina. "Hello, my love," they met the next day. "Oh, Diego, where are we going today?" The girl looked at him. "I don't know where are we going today, but I have happy news for you," he told her. "What news?" She was anticipating that now he was going to tell her about his father. "Yesterday I talked to my dad, and he said I can invite you for dinner next weekend," he smiled. "That's great. Now we need to think about what we will give him as a gift," the girl said. "What are you talking about? What gifts?" "He has everything," Diego laughed at her. "Okay, I'm sure he has everything, but I can't come empty-handed," she pondered. "Okay, we'll figure something out." "There's still time until the weekend," her boyfriend encouraged her. Cristina returned home. Isidora wasn't there now, and she didn't even have anyone to consult with. She wondered what to buy for an older man who had everything. Maybe a tie or a bottle of good wine. But everything was mixed up in her head. She couldn't think of anything. The girl had been very nervous all week long. It wasn't only because she had to meet Diego's father, but also because her studies were getting worse. She thought about Isidora again. There was no one to help her cheat on the test, no one to write cheat sheets for her, no one to ask for advice. When the day X came, Diego came to pick up Cristina and they went to his house. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "Of course, but I think it's normal. It's the first time I'm going to meet the parents of my..." She got scared, didn't finish the phrase, and looked at Diego with frightened eyes. "Tell me," he smiled. "Parents of my fiancé. Cristina, if everything goes well and my dad likes you, I promise we'll get married soon." He took her hand and looked into her eyes. "I believe you," she rested her head on his shoulder. When they entered the house, Marietta greeted them. Father wasn't home, as usual. "Well, maybe it's for the best," Diego said and headed to the living room with Cristina. He paid no attention to Marietta today. 15 minutes later, the front door opened and a man walked in. "Ah, Daddy, hello. We're already waiting for you." Diego walked towards him. Cristina followed his example and stood up too. "I see, we have guests, as you promised," his father said. "Yes. Dad, this is Cristina, my girlfriend. Cristina, this is Otilio, my father," he introduced them to each other. "Nice to meet you." Cristina didn't know what to do or what to say and looked awkward. The man saw that she was nervous. He took her hand, kissed it, and invited everyone to the table. By this time, Marietta had already set the table. They sat down and started talking. At first, the girl didn't know what to talk about. After all, they were from high society, and she came from the province. But when the conversation began, she realized that it was better to be herself than to pretend to be someone else. "Cristina, it's nice that you're studying at the university. I think that since you are from a small town, you must be a very good cook," he winked at his son. "Yeah, I love to cook," she looked at Marietta. The girl hated cooking, she never did it at all. She didn't want to cook or clean the house and hoped that she would have a housekeeper. Diego took the girl home, and when he returned, his father was waiting for him in his office. "So, Dad, what do you think of her?" "She's just a country girl. If you like her, I'm okay with that. You can live together, date her, marry her. I just need you to finally become more serious." "So Cristina can move in here?" Diego asked. "Sure. Live here together. Especially since I'm not home most of the time," he said. A week later, Diego and Cristina had already brought all the girls' belongings to his house. She was absolutely happy. "Diego, I love you so much." She hugged him. "And I love you," he kissed her. Now Cristina felt like she was the owner of this house. She could ask Marietta to bring water, and when she saw fingerprints on the glass, she just poured the water on the floor for the housekeeper to clean up. "Why do you behave like that?" Marietta asked her sometimes. "Like what?" Cristina said arrogantly. "As if you are the owner of this place." You are not, the woman went downstairs. Of course, Marietta didn't say anything to Ottilio because she thought he would believe his son, not her. One day Marietta knocked on the girl's door. What do you want? Cristina asked. Ottilio wants to see you. He's in his office, the woman said. What does he want from me? Cristina wondered. She thought that the housekeeper had complained about her and now he wanted to scold her. The girl went down the stairs and peeked into the office. Come in, he smiled and waited for her to enter. Hello, she entered and sat down on a chair. Cristina looked like a dog that did something wrong. What's going on with you? Why are you so sad? Are you afraid of something? The man asked. I'm not afraid of anything. What did you want to talk about? She asked. Listen, I want to talk to you about Diego. I found a job for him. It's very easy, not much to do. Diego has never worked and he doesn't like to do anything at all. But what can I do? She asked and already realized why he wanted to talk to her. If he really loves you, talk to him, ask him to get a job somewhere. If he doesn't want to work for my company, he can work anywhere else. I'm okay with that, he asked the girl. Okay. I'll try to do something, talk to him, she promised. She went back to her room, lay down on the bed, and thought that her plan had worked. Her life would be perfect from now on. Today Ottilio was talking to her like she was already a family member. He began to trust her, which meant she could now feel like the boss in this house and there was nothing to worry about anymore. Cristina was lying there and smiling. What's wrong with you? Diego, who had just entered the room, pulled her out of her stupor. Nothing. Why don't you want to work anywhere? She asked him cheerfully and stood up to approach her lover. Why should I? My dad's got a lot of money. Why would I do anything? He said. Ottilio talked to me about it today. She admitted. And what did you say to him? The guy was curious. He sat down on the bed and looked at the girl. I said that I would talk to you. She sat down next to him. So, did you talk to me? He grinned. Yes, she nodded and laughed, realizing what he meant. Don't bring it up again. I'll talk to my father myself. He pulled her to him and kissed. After that, the young people continued to live as they had lived before. Every day in the evening they left the house and went to a club or somewhere else. Neither Diego nor Cristina was going to get a job. A month later, Ottilio came home early. A young couple were still at home. Where are you going? He asked in a friendly manner, but his eyes showed that he was unhappy about something. Dad, don't start it. Diego said. I'm not starting anything, but you need to start growing up and working, the man said, sitting down in his chair. Why can't you understand that I don't want to work? I'm not ready for that. The guy looked away. Oh, really? Ottilio raised one eyebrow. Dad, I'm very young. I don't want to waste my life at work. Diego sincerely didn't understand why his father was even talking to him about it. Diego, I'm not young anymore. I can't support you forever. Who will provide for you and your wife when I'm gone? If you think the company I work for is owned solely by me, you're wrong. I have partners, and after I'm gone, they can easily buy the shares from the employees and get a bigger share of the company, and then you will definitely not get the business. You will get nothing at all. The man got up from his seat and started walking around the room and shouting. Don't worry that much. Cristina wanted to calm him down. Shut up, Cristina. I thought I would find an ally in your face, but you turned out to be the same. The father sat back in his chair. There was silence in the room. It was oppressive. Dad, I'm sorry, but we have to go. Our friends are waiting for us at the party. Diego stood up, put on his jacket, took Cristina's hand, and they walked towards the exit. I see, Ottilio said with a sigh. The man was trying to understand at what point his son became like this, at what point he allowed his son to become a person like this. The young couple only returned in the morning, when the head of the family had already left for work. So, will you marry me? Diego asked Cristina. Today, when they were at the club, he proposed to her many times, but she only smiled and didn't answer. What do you think? Yes, she hugged him, they fell on the bed, and soon fell asleep after the party. 2 hours later, the guy was already awake. He planned to surprise his girlfriend. He went downstairs and headed to his father's office. Dad, hi. He walked into his office. I can't believe you've come to apply for a job, his father smiled. Wait, no. That's not why I'm here. He didn't want to bring it up today. What then? Otilio wanted to know. I proposed to Cristina today. So, I need money, I need to buy a nice ring and everything Cristina asks for. Diego wasn't even ashamed to ask his father for money. Promise me you won't wait too long to have children, his father requested. I promise. We'll start trying as soon as we get married. The guy was ready to do anything for money. All right. You can go pick out a ring. And tell Cristina to start picking out a dress and getting ready. She has a lot of work to do, the man sighed. When Diego told Cristina about it, she was overjoyed. First, she jumped on the bed, then hugged and later kissed her lover. The girl began to prepare for her most important day. The couple decided it wasn't a good idea to rush. Let's prepare for the wedding properly, no rush. We have plenty of time, Diego said. But the real reason why they decided to wait was that Diego was afraid that if they got married, his father would say that he had his own family and now he had to provide for his wife himself. So the young people continued to live in the house without getting married. Marietta. Cristina shouted from the second floor. Don't shout, please, Diego wrinkled his nose. After yesterday's party, he had a headache. Where the hell is she? The girl turned to him, she had a headache too. I don't know. Go down to the first floor and get what you need. She's not your slave, she doesn't have to serve you, Diego said softly. What does she get paid for, then? I can make breakfast, lunch, and dinner myself, she said indignantly. Just go and find her if you need something, but stop shouting. The guy didn't know how to get rid of the girl's questions. I will go and find this damn Marietta. Cristina left the room, slamming the door. She went downstairs and saw Marietta standing with her bags in the hall. Hello, the housekeeper looked at her arrogantly. Where the hell are you going? The girl asked loudly. That's none of your business. Marietta muttered, but Cristina didn't listen to her. What? She was so indignant. I'm leaving. I informed Otilio. The woman picked up her bags and headed for the exit. Stop. The girl shouted after her, but she didn't even look back, just walked out and closed the door. Diego, she left. Cristina came back into the room, confused. Calm down, please, he begged her again. The girl sat down on the bed and folded her arms across her chest. Would she really have to do all the housework now? At that moment, Isidora was applying for an academic leave at the university. She realized that no one could help her here. She needed to go home. The first time she came to her mom after what had happened, she hadn't told her anything. Now it was time to confess. Mom, she entered the house. Darling, why are you here? Marta was surprised. Mom, I'm sorry, she fell into her lap and cried. What are you doing? Get up. Tell me what happened, she asked. Mom, just don't worry, Isidora said. What happened? You know, you were right when you warned me about rich guys. She couldn't say anything else, tears were choking her. So, he used you, her mother shook her head. Isidora didn't need to say anything more. Her mom understood everything right away. I'm pregnant, the girl said quietly. She was sobbing. That's okay. We'll raise the baby, and everything will be fine, the woman said, but she felt unwell. Her heart suddenly ached. Wait a second. Isidora quickly opened the cupboard, took the pills, and gave it to her mom with a glass of water. The woman immediately took a pill and then exhaled. After that, Isidora walked her into the room and helped her to lie down on the couch. What are we going to do now? Social payments are miserable. You don't work anywhere, you will get pennies, Marta exhaled. Everything will be fine, I know it for sure, Isidora hugged her mother. They lay on the couch together for a long time, and then Isidora got up and went to make dinner. The woman ate her meal in bed, and then she took another pill and tried to sleep. Isidora went to her room. In the night, she heard her mother cry out and immediately rushed to her. Mommy, what happened? She bent over her. The woman's face was twisted. She immediately called an ambulance. They arrived, and after a short examination, they decided to take Marta to the hospital. It's my fault, the girl was crying in the ambulance. Don't blame anyone, the doctor tried to calm her down. Isidora spent the whole night with her mother in the hospital room. When Marta opened her eyes and saw her daughter, she got worried again. Mommy, don't, she saw her eyes. Honey, go home, you need to get some rest. I'll be all right, her mother said. Okay, Isidora didn't want something terrible to happen and obeyed her mother. She came home and didn't know what to do. But after a while, Isidora felt tired and went to bed. The girl woke up from some kind of anxiety, opened her eyes, and stared at the ceiling for a long time, not realizing where she was. Then she got up quickly, made some porridge, and headed to the hospital. Hello, she saw a doctor. Miss, wait. You are Marta's daughter, right? Yes. What happened? Isidora was getting really nervous. Nothing yet. But, tell me. Your mother needs expensive medication, the man said. I understand. She walked down the corridor to the room. The girl was holding a list of what her mother needed. Mom, hi. Just don't worry, she smiled widely, even though her heart was aching. Come on in, darling, the woman said. She was lying on the bed, leaning back on the pillow. You really scared me last night, Isidora exhaled. I'm already getting better, Marta looked at the list in her daughter's hands. Mom, I love you so much, her daughter came up and hugged her. Isidora, what is this? Marta asked about the piece of paper in her hands. Nothing, the girl ignored the question. Honey, I see that you're concerned about something. Show me what it is, the mother insisted. These are the medicines you were prescribed, Isidora could not hide it. Darling, why don't you call your ex-boyfriend? Her mother suggested. Martha had never been greedy and had never asked anyone for anything, but she realized that her daughter would try to do everything possible to find money for the medications. Mom, don't even think about it. Her daughter was indignant. Okay, I won't mention it again. Just a suggestion, the woman tried to get up. What are you doing? Lie down, Isidora could not allow it. Today Isidora saw that her mother was really getting better, so she could go home and think about the situation. She arrived, made herself some hot coffee, sat by the window, and began to think, where could she get money? She spent 2 hours sitting there, but she couldn't think of anything. Isidora, hello. Her neighbor saw her through the window. Hello, she waved her hand. How are you doing? The woman stopped. Mom's in the hospital. For some reason, Isidora wanted to tell her everything. Or maybe she just wanted to talk to someone. Come to my place. We'll have tea and talk. Rafaela was hospitable. Thank you. The girl decided she really should talk to someone and began to tell Rafaela about everything that had happened lately. What a scoundrel. And I feel so sorry for Marta, she shook her head and sighed. Yes, she put the list of medicines on the table. Oh, my God. The neighbor was shocked. But where are you going to get that kind of money? The woman looked at Isidora. I don't know, the girl said. Listen, Rafaela, I saw a summer house on your plot, Isidora said hesitantly. The idea had just occurred to her. Yes, her neighbor said. Can I ask you a favor? Isidora said shyly. Isidora, just tell me, do you need some help or what? Rafaela replied impatiently. If I sold our house, I could buy medicine, and not only that, she pointed to the list of medications. But how can I help you? Until I find a new place to live, can I stay at your summer house? Isidora finally said. Well, my summer house isn't very comfortable, but you can live there as long as you want. I don't mind, she said. Thank you. I'll never forget it, Isidora said sincerely. After that, the girl started looking for buyers without saying anything to her mother. Now her mother's health was the priority for her, besides the baby needed a lot of money. She didn't think about the future right now, hoping that the remaining amount of money would be enough to buy at least a room. Buyers were found quickly. The house was sold. However, not for the price she expected, but still, it was enough. Isidora thanked everyone. She took all her belongings to her neighbor's summer house. She had to leave most of the furniture to the new owners. Rafaela, hello, she entered the house. Oh, Isidora, come in, she was glad to see the girl. I just came to tell you that I've already moved into your summer house, the girl said. Good. If you need anything, let me know, she said sincerely. The very next day she got all the medicines for her mother. While her mother was in the hospital, the girl continued to live in this small house, which was now her shelter. Isidora. A nurse called out to her when she came to the hospital again. Everyone here already knew her. Your mother will be discharged soon. Thanks to you, she's getting much better. They walked down the corridor together. That's great. I'm so tired of being alone. Don't worry, everything will be fine, the nurse shook her hand. Isidora came to her mother's room and immediately told her the good news. But she had to tell her about the house somehow. Mom. She entered the room, happy and cheerful as usual. My little girl is here. They hugged each other. Listen, I need to tell you something. But don't worry. I've started renovating our house. So we have to stay in a rented place for a while. But where did you get all that money? Marta couldn't understand. Mom, don't worry, everything is fine, really, she looked at her mother. It was August. The girl realized that soon it would get colder and it wouldn't be possible to stay in the summer house any longer. She had already been looking for an apartment to rent. There was very little money left. They wouldn't have enough to buy even a cheap house. Luckily, when her mom was discharged, the girl managed to find a small apartment to rent. Let's go, Mom, carefully, she led her mother down the hospital corridor. It's okay. You're taking great care of me, thank you, Marta smiled. They arrived at their new apartment. It's right here. For now, we will live here, Isidora said, trying to be calm. Okay, the woman sighed. Marta was happy that her daughter was already so independent. They began to organize the place for the baby. Since it was a one-bedroom apartment, there was only a small corner for the baby. Although Isidora had spent all the money, now she didn't regret it, watching how happy her mother was. Mom. Breakfast. Isidora called out to her in the morning after she had prepared everything. Darling, you didn't have to, the woman said. Don't say anything. Just sit down and eat, she greeted her in the morning. Tell me, when will the renovation of our house be finished? Marta kept asking. We need to wait a little longer. Months passed. The girl realized that in 2 months they would have nowhere to live. She could not tell her mother that she had no money. But there was nowhere to get it. One evening the doorbell rang. Isidora opened the door and saw Rafaela. I thought I'd never find you, she said and walked inside. Oh, neighbors! Marta rejoiced. Isidora didn't have time to tell her neighbor that her mother didn't know anything. You shouldn't have sold your house, she said right on the doorstep. Isidora, what does that mean? The mother turned to her. Mom, don't worry. I'll tell you everything, Isidora looked at her neighbor. They went to the kitchen, where Isidora made delicious coffee. Rafaela was sitting and looking at mother and daughter, who were just silent. "I need to get some rest," Marta said and went to her room. "Why did you do that?" "She didn't know anything," Isidora whispered to Rafaela. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Rafaela was frightened. The girl went to the room to talk to her mom. Marta was lying on the couch and didn't move. "Mom," she called her, but Marta didn't answer. "What's wrong with her?" Rafaela came in. "Call an ambulance," Isidora shouted. Just a minute, her hands were shaking, and she couldn't even enter the right digits. "Ouch." The girl clutched her belly. "Are you okay?" Rafaela was already very nervous. "I think I'm in labor." The pain was so intense that she couldn't even stand up straight. "Why did I even come here?" Rafaela was whispering. When the ambulance arrived, they took not one, but 2 women to the hospital. Rafaela wanted to go with them, but the doctors wouldn't let her. When they were in the hospital, Isidora couldn't find out anything about her mother, as she was in a very miserable situation herself. She was only 8 months pregnant and the difficult labor was about to begin. A few hours later, a dark-haired boy was lying on the girl's chest. "Hello, Julio," the young mother said to him. "Soon you will meet your grandmother." "I'm afraid it's not possible." The girl in a medical uniform held Isidora's hand. "Why?" she wondered. "Marta died a few hours ago," the nurse said quietly. "No. Mom, no." Isidora sobbed quietly, so as not to frighten the baby. "Sorry to be the bearer of bad news." At that moment, the nurse took Julio away from his mother. Isidora was transferred to the recovery room. She was lying there staring at the ceiling. She couldn't believe that all her efforts were in vain, and now she was left without her mom, without a place to live, and with a baby in her arms. But she couldn't do anything about it now. "Here we are. Take your son, dear." The nurse gave her the baby. "Come here, my baby." She took Julio in her arms. She learned everything quickly. There were no problems with changing diapers or feeding. 2 days later, the doctor told them to get ready for discharge. Isidora realized that if the mother and baby were all right, no one would keep them at the hospital for long. Rafaela came to pick them up. There was no one else. "Isidora, look at the blanket I brought you. It's not new, but it looks good." She gave the nurse a blanket to wrap the baby in. "Thank you for everything." The girl was grateful, but also a little angry, but it was impossible to bring anything back now. They arrived at the apartment Isidora had rented. "I should probably go to the store," Rafaela told her. "You know, I'll do everything myself," she asked. She was very tired and depressed, but she also had to organize her mother's funeral. While the girl was giving birth and staying in the hospital, her mother was in a completely different place. "What about the funeral?" "Let me help you with that," Rafaela said. "I'd appreciate it." Isidora agreed. She knew she couldn't handle everything alone. When everything was done, neighbors and friends were sitting around the table paying tribute to Marta. Isidora couldn't hold back her tears. She was crying her eyes out. Someone gave her a sedative, and she took it. Some woman came closer and sat down across from her. "I don't want to talk to anyone right now," the girl said. "Come on, pull yourself together." She took her by the shoulders and shook her sharply. "What are you doing?" Isidora looked at her. "Isidora, come to your senses. You just gave birth to a baby. He needs his mommy. Not a depressed weak mom, but a good loving mother who can take care of him," the woman told her. Suddenly Isidora realized that she must not be discouraged. She had to pull herself together and live for the sake of her son. She thanked everyone who had come today. "Shall I walk you home?" Rafaela asked. "No, thank you." The girl took her sleeping baby and walked home. Fortunately, she had taken care of everything in advance, and now Julio had a stroller, a crib, and some other stuff. She needed to look for money for the apartment, but the girl had no idea where to find it or how to earn it. Rafaela offered her help, and no matter what, the young mother accepted it because she had to feed the baby. And to feed her baby, she had to eat something herself. Rafaela, please babysit Julio. I'll go to the store quickly, Isidora once asked. Sure, no problem, she agreed. The girl went to the same store every time. Here she could both buy some goods and borrow something. But knowing that there would be no money to pay back, she never borrowed much. And today Isidora went to the store and did not think about anything. When she entered the store, she immediately saw a familiar silhouette. She wanted to turn around and run out, but she didn't have time to do it. I can't believe my eyes. My dear friend. Cristina turned to her and opened her arms for a hug. Hi, Isidora said quietly. What's wrong with you? My shy girl became even more shy? Cristina started mocking her as usual. Why, are you in some kind of trouble? Isidora looked at her and saw that Cristina was wearing nice expensive clothes and looked great. What are you doing here? Isidora asked. I came to invite my mother to the wedding, Cristina said arrogantly. I see. Congratulations, Isidora nodded and went to the counter. The saleswoman already knew what she needed. Hi Isidora, same as usual? The woman asked. Yes, she nodded. Here, take some semolina. Cook it for Julio. It's delicious, the woman put a bag of semolina on the counter. No, it's too early to give him semolina, Isidora refused to take it. Take it, for free, the saleswoman insisted. Oh, do you already have kids? The girl just became a woman and already got a baby. Her friend laughed. At that moment Isidora looked at her and wondered how she could endure all the humiliation and not see what her childhood friend was really like. It's none of your business, she wanted to leave the store, but Cristina stopped her. You know what? I'd like to invite you to visit, she said. I can't, I have a baby, the girl mumbled and didn't look at her interlocutor. So what? I don't think it's a problem. A driver will come to pick me up in a few days. Be ready, I'll pick you up. Cristina didn't do it all out of good intentions. She wanted to show her friend, who never believed in her, how beautiful her life was now. Okay, we'll see, Isidora wanted to leave as soon as possible. She was walking home and there was some kind of storm inside her. The girl felt a lot of emotions towards Cristina and they were all negative. At home, she thanked Rafaela for babysitting Julio. She cooked dinner, had her meal, fed the baby, and began to do her household chores. There was only a week left. In a week, she either had to pay or leave the apartment. She sat on the bed, looking at the sleeping baby, and thought that she should push her pride away and just ask Cristina for help. After all, she had helped Cristina in the past, and she thought that Cristina would help her in the future. Isidora thought about it for a long time and made up her mind. 3 days later, Cristina came to pick her up as promised. When Isidora opened the door, she saw her on the doorstep in a gorgeous outfit. Hello, my dear friend. Are you ready to go? She asked and saw that she had her bag packed. Wow, you're really prepper. Isidora packed a bag. She put some clothes for herself and everything necessary for Julio. They went downstairs, got in the car, and headed to the city. What do you think? Cristina was sitting in the car and giving orders to the driver where to go and what to do, like he was her servant. I see that you have achieved everything that you wanted, the girl sighed. Well, yes, because I'm not a nerd who can have a baby with anyone, she laughed at her, not even realizing whose baby it was. They pulled up to a nice house and got out of the car. Cristina was walking in front in expensive high-heeled shoes, and Isidora was following her with a baby and a bag. When they entered the house, Cristina immediately said that she would show Isidora her room. Guiding her through the first floor, she opened the door. It was almost a pantry. But Isidora didn't care now, as long as she had a place to stay with her baby. Now I will feed Julio, put him to bed, and then you will show me everything, she tried to be friendly. Yes, of course, do whatever you want, Cristina said nonchalantly. While Isidora was feeding Julio, Diego came home. Julio had fallen asleep. Isidora came out of her small room and immediately saw him. Is that you? He turned to the girl and then looked at his future wife. Come on, Diego. I invited her to see how normal people live. Cristina approached Diego and hugged him. Isidora didn't say anything, just lowered her eyes. She didn't want to be here anymore. Maybe she should have asked who Cristina was living with. On the other hand, Isidora had no choice. She needed a roof over her head, at least for a while. She encouraged herself with the thought that she was doing this for her son's sake. Okay, you haven't seen each other in a while. I think you want to talk. I'll go. Diego didn't want to stay in this company and left. The girl sat on the couch. Cristina began to tell how rich and happy she was and that soon she would become Diego's wife, and then she would be the rightful boss in this house. That's what you dreamed about. I guess sometimes dreams come true. She shook her head. Listen, could you make dinner? Cristina asked her. Of course. But why do you ask about it? Isidora didn't understand. You see, our housekeeper quit a few weeks ago, and now I have to cook myself. You know I'm a bad cook. I try to cook, but I see that no one likes my cooking. So I have to constantly order food from restaurants or buy something from the supermarket, Cristina said irritably. If you have groceries and everything else, I'll make dinner. Isidora got up from the couch. Now I will show you everything. Cristina walked her into the kitchen, showed her everything, and left her there alone. The girl spent about 2 hours in the kitchen. When almost everything was ready, she heard her son crying, ran to the room, changed his diaper, fed him, and put him to bed again. Isidora didn't hear it, but that's when Otilio came back. Oh my goodness, what is that smell? He asked from the threshold. You know, I invited my friend and asked her to make dinner for us. Cristina began to justify herself. She thought Isidora had done something wrong. That's great. Finally, we can have dinner together. Isidora set the table and wanted to go to her room. Isidora, would you join us, please? Otilio turned to her. You know, I feel uncomfortable. It was true. She had never sat at a table like this before, never eaten in the company of people who had everything. Come on, sit down. Otilio pulled back a chair. She sat down modestly. Everyone began to eat and praise her food. Well, you really surprised us, he ate with gusto. Oh, really? It's a very simple meal. I cooked what I had time for. She felt embarrassed. You and Cristina are friends? It seemed to me that she wasn't very nice to you. Otilio said and looked at his future daughter-in-law. Otilio, why do you say that? The girl almost jumped up from the table. Calm down, have a seat, he said to Cristina. Dad, please don't even start, Diego said. Be quiet and let me speak. I'm still the owner of this house. I want to offer Isidora the job. At least temporarily. He turned to her. What? What kind of job? Isidora didn't understand. She had no education, she didn't know anything. What could he offer her? If you agree, you can stay in this house and help Cristina with the household chores, he told. You know, I have a baby, I need to take care of him. She looked at the door of the room where the baby was now. That's okay. I see that he is very quiet. Stay here for now, and then we'll find a better solution, the man said kindly. Thank you. I will certainly agree because I have no money and no place to go. She turned to Cristina. Fortunately, she hadn't had time to ask her for help. Deal. I feel like I'm about to have delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. Right, Cristina? Otilio got up from the table and went to his office. Isidora, I can't believe. You haven't even been in this house for 24 hours, and he already treats you like this. Cristina walked past her and whispered these words. But Isidora didn't care about that. She began to do her chores and kept taking care of her son. As Otilio had said, Julio was a very quiet child. He slept most of the day. Isidora only took a break from her work to feed him. Right now she was enjoying it all very much. In the morning, the driver would take her to get groceries. Sometimes, she took her son with her in the baby carrier that Otilio had kindly bought her. But more often she left him at home because he's been sleeping peacefully this whole time. The girl could buy both groceries for the house and for herself. The salary was good. It was even enough to buy clothes for the boy. The house was perfectly clean and the food was always delicious. Dad, let's hire a normal housekeeper. Why do we need this girl? She has no education, no references, nothing, Diego told his father. What are you talking about? Isidora does everything perfectly well. Even if I were offered another candidate right now, I'd say no. I don't like the way she makes salads for me, Cristina supported her future husband. Oh, really? Well, what does she do wrong? The pieces of vegetables are too large. Cristina said. What? You came from the village yesterday. You were best friends. And we still don't know how you make salads, the man frowned. He headed for his office. Now he really liked to be in his office. Everything was perfect there. It was always perfectly clean, and there was always a bouquet of fresh flowers on the desk that spread the tender scent. And it was all done by a young girl. Although she had a baby, she had time to do everything around the house and cook. Even such little things as placing flowers everywhere. Otilio, can I come in? There was a knock on the door, and Isidora showed up. Yes, of course, come in, he never minded her visit. I just came to ask, she began. Do you need something? You can ask for anything you want. He could see how shy she was in front of him, and perhaps even a little afraid. No, I don't need anything, she said. Well, what then? He waited. I wanted to ask you. I know you like coffee a lot. I could make it every time you come, but I don't know how much sugar to put in the mug, she asked him seriously. You're not kidding? Otilio laughed. He was charmed by this girl's naivety, by the way she devoted herself to her work and everything else. No, I'm not kidding, she looked at him and didn't understand why he was asking that question. Okay, I'll tell you. If you don't know how much sugar to put in my coffee, just put a couple of cubes on a plate. If I need it, I'll add it myself, the man answered her with a smile. Oh, Isidora looked at him confused and blamed herself for not figuring it out herself. Is there something else? He looked at her. No, that's it, thank you. After that, she went to her room. She had plenty of free time. She could walk with her son in the yard or in the garden. Why are you chilling again? She heard Cristina's voice. Why are you always talking to me like this? Isidora turned to her. How, she didn't understand. Well, you can talk to me in a normal way. We used to be friends, we were very close, she said. I don't care what was in the past. Now I am your boss, and you must do what I tell you to do, is that clear? Cristina said arrogantly. Clear. But now I have free time, and I can do what I want. Isidora turned away and went further along the walkway. How dare you? You've gotten too bold. Cristina said, but no one paid any attention to her. She ran into the house and went straight to her fiancé. Can you imagine? She was rude to me, she said. Look, you're the one who invited her to our house. Did you want to show off? That's the result. I'm so sick of it. Why do I have to tolerate her in this house? Cristina sat down in her chair and folded her arms across her chest as usual. She always did that when she was offended. That's okay. Wait, Father will see what she's really like and kick her out anyway, Diego promised her. We'll see. But it didn't look that way to me. He's always on her side, she said angrily. The afternoon was unbearable. When Isidora served lunch, Diego and Cristina yelled at her again and again. They didn't like the shape of the bread slices, the amount of dressing in the salad, or even the way she put the plates on the table. There were complaints about everything, but Isidora didn't pay any attention. They were very angry, but Isidora only listened to what Otilio said. Otilio began to come home earlier than before. They had dinner together every day, and they talked. And then he liked to come into Isidora's room, and while she cleaned the kitchen, he would take care of Julio. Julio was already about 8 months old. The boy was already trying to walk on his feet, and the man helped him. "You two get along so well," Isidora looked at how Otilio was taking care of her baby. "Oh, girl, you have no idea how much I want grandchildren. It's time for Diego to be a father, but he doesn't want to grow up the man's side and continue to play with the boy." "Yeah," Isidora pursed her lips. He was about to go to his office when he saw that there were abrasions and bruises on the girl's wrist and forearm. "What is it?" Otilio asked. He knew that she didn't go anywhere except the store, the garden, and the yard. "Nothing. Probably hit the furniture while cleaning," she said. "It's not possible." He looked into her eyes. Isidora looked away. It's true, she was no longer looking at her boss. "Okay." He let go of her hands and went to his office. The man was very angry. In his office, he dialed the phone number of his friend. He waited for a long time and finally heard his friend's voice in the receiver. "Sebastian, hello," he greeted his interlocutor. "You know, I want you to come to my house when I tell you and set up the cameras." "Outside?" the young man asked him. No, inside," the man told him calmly. "All right, whatever you say. Just tell me when you have free time, and I will come to your place." Sebastian had such a job that nothing surprised him anymore. "Yeah, I'll call you." "Thank you." Otilio disconnected. He had a suspicion that perhaps his son and future daughter-in-law were doing something wrong. But if he found out that Isidora was doing something wrong herself, he would have a serious conversation with her as well. A week passed. All this week he'd been thinking about what to do to make Cristina and Diego leave the house for a while. "Listen, kids," he once said over dinner. This afternoon he came up with a brilliant idea. "What?" Diego looked at him. He knew that when his father said something like that, it meant he had something to suggest. "Would you like to go somewhere for a vacation?" he asked them. "Why?" Cristina squinted. "You spend all your time at home. Aren't you bored yet? You go out at night and sleep all day. Go on vacation, relax, and come back full of energy," he suggested to them. "Sounds great." They agreed. Finally, he could set up the cameras without any obstacles. When Diego and Cristina left and Isidora went to the store, Otilio called Sebastian. He came and quickly installed hidden cameras. "Thank you," he shook the technician's hand. "You're welcome." Sebastian left. Isidora returned and was surprised to see Otilio at home. "I thought you'd already left for the office," she said. "You know, I decided to take the day off today. I like spending time with Julio so much. Will you let me take him for a walk?" Otilio asked. "Of course. You don't have to ask about it." She started getting the baby ready for a walk. While the man was walking with the baby, the girl did a lot of housework. She was flattered that Otilio was spending so much time with her child, but on the other hand, she didn't want the boy to get used to him. In the meantime, Otilio enjoyed playing with Julio. He had become so attached to the boy that he would do anything for him. He installed a sandbox, swings, and a small slide in the yard. "Why are you doing it all?" Isidora asked him shyly. "What do you mean, why?" "Look how much fun he's having," the man pointed at the boy, who was smiling cheerfully. "I won't be working here forever. We will leave one day anyway." "Why would you do that?" She speculated. "You know, I still hope to have grandchildren someday." He was sad. The man was especially sad when in the evenings, watching the cameras, he saw Isidora playing with her child. She didn't just feed him and put him to bed. She played with him, educated him, showed him letters, read for him, and taught him how to draw. It was so sweet. Otilio was once again convinced that Isidora was a perfect woman. She can do everything and has time for everything. After that, the work process began as before. The man would leave home early in the morning and return late in the evening. He saw that during this time Isidora was not slacking off. She wasn't lying on the couch, watching TV. She still worked around the house. Even though she didn't have to cook dinner for the whole family, the girl still found some work to do. And the man liked that. Finally, Diego and Cristina returned from their vacation. As soon as they entered the house, Cristina stopped on the doorstep. "Ew, what's that smell?" she said out loud. "I just cleaned the windows. I guess the smell of the detergent hasn't gone away yet," she said. "Try to make it go away quickly," Cristina said. Cristina threw her bag and shoes on the floor. Isidora put it all away and went to set the table for the couple to eat something. That day, after dinner, Otilio went to check the camera footage out of habit. It was really interesting to him, but he had no idea what he might see. It was lunchtime. Since he wasn't home, the table was only set for 2 people. "Isidora, where are you?" Cristina shouted. "I'll bring everything right away," the girl answered. "How much longer do I have to wait?" Cristina yelled. "I don't have 10 hands, and I can't do everything simultaneously," Isidora calmly answered her. "What?" Cristina took the plate and threw it on the floor. The plate shattered into small pieces. "Why are you doing this?" Isidora asked her for the umpteenth time. "Why am I doing this? I'm sick of you. Why the hell did you come here? To live in luxury and enjoy your life?" Cristina grabbed Isidora's arm. Isidora shouted, but Cristina began to squeeze the girl's arm harder and harder. "Cristina, calm down." Diego tried to stop her. "How dare you talk to me like that?" She turned to him. "It's all because of you, bitch." Cristina slapped Isidora on the face. Isidora looked at her friend shocked, tears welling up in her eyes. When Otilio saw it, he realized how the girl got the bruises. It was the son and daughter-in-law who were always abusing her. He wanted to protect her, but he decided to wait a bit and see what would happen next. He went out into the hall and there was no one there. Isidora was working in the kitchen. Diego was probably going out again. Otilio could not tolerate this in his house, and he was filled with mixed feelings. He looked into the room where the baby was playing in his crib. The man tried to be at home as often as possible now. He even managed to come over for lunch sometimes. "Father, I don't recognize you," his son said cheekily. "It will always be like that now," the man said. One night he went down to the first floor and saw Isidora there with a baby beside her. "What are you doing here?" "It's very late already," he asked. "Sorry, we are already going to bed," the girl said as if she was frightened. "It's okay, you can be wherever you want and whenever you want in this house. I just wanted to make sure you were okay," he reassured the girl. "We are okay," she smiled and went to her room. The man shrugged and went to his room. Lately, it seemed to him that there was something connecting him and Isidora. He didn't miss a single video of Isidora and her son. One day he came home later than usual. No one had seen him. Otilio went to his office and started watching a movie. That's what he called the camera footage. "Julio, run here," Isidora came out of the room. The man looked at them, and tenderness came into his heart. "Mom," the boy walked unsteadily toward her. The girl stretched out her arms and picked up the child. Then she went to the fireplace. There were many pictures. She adjusted some of them and then pointed to Otilio's late wife. At this point, the man wondered what she could possibly know about her. "Look, this is your grandmother. And here is your grandfather," Isidora pointed to his photo. "I don't understand." The man stared at the monitor. "And here's your daddy Diego. But he's a bad guy. Not like Grandpa," the mother told her son emotionally. They spent some more time in front of the fireplace and then went to their room. Otilio smiled. He assumed the girl had no relatives at all, so she imagined it was her family. He turned the computers off and went to bed. But a few days later, the same thing happened again. Isidora, Julio, and I are going for a walk. And you can make dinner in peace, Otilio said. Okay. But this time Otilio didn't take Julio to the toy store or anywhere else. They were heading to the private clinic. Even though it was nonsense, the man decided to check it out by all means. He had Diego's hair in his pocket. Hello. He walked in, told his last name, and said he had an appointment. The girl walked him into the lab. At that moment Julio became fussy. They gave him some water to drink and a toy to play with, and he quickly calmed down. When all the medical procedures were over, the only thing left to do was to wait. Now Otilio always brought Julio some new toy when he came home from work. Why do you spoil him? Isidora asked. Look how cute he is, and how smart he is, the man answered. He still kept watching the camera footage. While he was at home, nothing like that happened. One day he wasn't home again, and in the evening when he was watching the footage, he saw the unpleasant scene again. Where are you going again? Cristina yelled. Are you going to control me all the time? I don't work for you, I work for Otilio, she replied calmly. That old man? He's almost in the grave. Soon I'll marry Diego and I'll be the owner of this place. And then you will no longer dare to speak to me like that, she said angrily. If you become the owner of this house, I will leave right away. Isidora answered her calmly. You can leave right now. I'm so sick of you, she said, indignantly. Cristina, please leave me alone. I'm doing my job and I think I'm doing it well. Otilio is happy with the results of my work. I have nothing to be ashamed of. She turned around and wanted to leave the house. Where the hell are you going? Cristina grabbed her arm. Let me go. Isidora looked at her. I'll let you go when I want to. Cristina thought she was a queen here. Don't touch me, please, Isidora tried to break free. But at that moment Cristina pushed her so hard that she fell and hit her head on the corner of the table. At this moment, Otilio got very frightened. He left his office and went straight to Isidora's room. She was not there, nor was the baby. So he quickly went to his son's room. Where is she? He asked. What? Diego turned to him. Where is Isidora? He repeated his question. How should I know where your Isidora is? Diego shrugged his shoulders. Cristina was sitting quietly by the mirror. She didn't even turn around. If you don't tell me now where the girl is, I will find her anyway. But you might have a problem. She was scrubbing the floors downstairs today. I don't know how it happened, but when I came downstairs, she was already unconscious on the floor. I called an ambulance and they took her away, the girl said fearfully. What the hell are you doing? Otilio said angrily, slammed the door, and went downstairs. He got into the car and rushed to the nearest hospital, but the girl was not there. Then he tried to find out where she might have been taken. An hour later the man was already sitting near her bed. It so happened that there was no one to take care of the baby. So he was at the hospital too. Otilio, why are you here? I'm fine. Just a little bruise. I wanted to go home tonight, she told him calmly. You have no idea how frightened I was when I saw that neither you nor Julio were in the room. He took her hands. The girl didn't like that. She didn't want anyone to worry about her that much. All right. We've examined all the scans. You're fine. No concussion. You can go home, the nurse came into the room. That's great, the man said. He took Julio in his arms, helped Isidora to get up, and they left the hospital together. Soon they were already at home. Cristina watched as her future father-in-law carefully led the girl to her room. Her fists were clenched so much that her hands were turning white. After that, There was silence for a couple of weeks, nothing special happening. Otilio was at work when the phone rang. He was informed that the test results were ready. He didn't wait a minute and immediately drove there. When he took the cherished envelope in his hands, he decided that he needed to calm down and look at everything with a sober mind. He was dreaming. He hoped that Julio would turn out to be his grandson. The man didn't open the envelope right away. He arrived home, went into his office, drank some water, calmed down, exhaled, and opened it. The numbers were jumping in front of his eyes. He didn't understand anything. But the most important thing was the last line, which said that Diego was Julio's father. He was so happy when he found out he had a grandson. But he heard some noise in the house at that moment, quickly turned on the monitors, and started to watch. Cristina and Diego were sitting on the couch. They were talking about something when Isidora approached them. "Sit down. I want to tell you something," Cristina said cheekily. "I think you told me and showed me everything a long time ago. Isidora didn't want to stay alone with them. I told you to sit down and listen. It will be interesting for you." She looked at her sassily. "Well, what do you want to tell me?" Isidora sat down modestly on the corner of the sofa. "Did you know that I told Diego to seduce you that night? He told me he could seduce anyone. And I thought that you would never fall for his charms. But you gave up." She said it with pleasure and watched Isidora's reaction. "Is that true?" The girl turned to Diego. She wanted confirmation. "It's true. Have you seen yourself from the outside? Just an ugly nerd. Gray dress, gray face, gray hair. Who would want you? Did you really think a rich, handsome guy like me would like you?" "Ha," he laughed in her face. At that moment Isidora cried. She felt so bad for herself and for all the other girls he had just used and left behind. Otilio was sitting there watching all of this. His fists were clenched. Tears were streaming from his eyes. The man didn't understand how he could have raised such a bastard. He couldn't let anyone talk to this nice girl like that. He took the envelope from the table and was just about to leave the office when he heard Isidora start talking. "You're a scoundrel. You don't even know how much you can hurt. No, not physically, but mentally. Yes, I gave in to you then. There was a moment of weakness. But I'm grateful to you," she sobbed. "For what? For bringing you to this house? For letting you work here?" He said cheekily. "No." Before she could say anything, the office door opened and Otilio came out into the hall. "Dad, what are you doing at home?" Diego wondered. "Isidora, talk." The man walked toward them, holding some papers. "What do you want me to say?" She tried to calm down. "What did you want to say just now? What are you grateful to him for?" He approached them calmly. The girl shifted her gaze to the papers he had in his hands and understood everything. After that she looked at Cristina, then at Diego, and grinned. "I don't think you want to know this, but Julio is your son," she said calmly. "What?" they answered together. "Julio is your son," Diego the man answered. He threw the papers on the table. Cristina immediately grabbed the papers and started looking through them. "I don't believe you. It's impossible," she shouted. "Maybe it's impossible. But, as you can see, it has happened." The owner of the house sat down next to Isidora and took her hand. "What are you going to do now?" Diego asked fearfully and looked at his father. "Tomorrow you will know everything," the man replied calmly and walked Isidora to her room. "Thank you," she looked at him. "No, thank you." He turned around and walked out. Otilio felt bad about the whole situation. He didn't realize at all how his son was living and what he was doing. The next morning he summoned a lawyer to help him solve some matters. Otilio was afraid to leave Isidora at home with these bastards. He only spent a couple of hours at work and then went home. The girl was cooking, and Diego and Cristina were not home. The man exhaled calmly. He took his grandson and went out for a walk with him. "Are you happy?" Isidora heard Cristina's Angie voice. No, she shook her head. Isn't your lover too old for you? How did you even seduce Otilio? Cristina said sarcastically. I didn't seduce anyone, she was as calm as always. When dinner was ready and the whole family was at the table, Otilio got up, went to Isidora's room, and carried his grandson in his arms. Today he had bought him a new high chair and placed it at the head of the table where he used to sit himself. What the hell is going on? Diego wondered. This is the seat of the master of the house. And this is where Julio will sit from now on. Isidora, please join us. I have an announcement to make, the man muttered. Maybe it's not a good idea. Isidora didn't want to sit here together with them. Please, he said politely, remembering how Cristina had forced her to sit down. Okay, she took a seat next to the man. So, kids, Otilio looked at everyone at the table. It was no secret that Diego was my only son and heir, and he would get everything I had. Oh my gosh, Diego realized that this was not going to be an easy conversation. Shut up, his father told him sternly. What? His son tried to get up from the table. If you leave now, you won't hear the most important thing, Otilio said calmly. What is the most important thing? The boy was ready to listen now. Well, I hope you understand that I didn't put Julio's chair in this place for no reason. I will change the will. The house and everything that goes with it belong to him from now on. Until he comes of age, Isidora can manage it. He looked at her. Why? The girl was shocked. Dad, how? Diego couldn't understand anything. Don't worry, Diego, I bought a small apartment for you and assigned a monthly allowance. But only for a year, he said calmly and began to eat. How dare you do this to your son? Cristina stood up and shouted. What? Did you finally realize that you're not going to be the owner of this house? The man grinned. It's all because of you, she leaned over Isidora. Don't touch her, or I will kick you out right now, Otilio threatened her. You will pay for everything. Cristina choked with anger. Goodbye, the man waved his hand at her. Diego got up from the table and went to his room to pack his belongings. Why are you doing this to them? Isidora asked. I saw everything. I saw them abusing you, Otilio confessed. How did you see that? She couldn't understand. I saw your bruises and set up the cameras. And when I heard what you were telling your son, I decided to take a DNA test, the man said. Wow. I had no idea about that, she was shocked. Do you also think that I will be in the grave soon? He took her hands. Of course not, she blushed. I wouldn't mind having such a mistress in the house, he winked at the girl. Otilio, she didn't know what to say. I hope you'll get used to it soon, the man said and took the boy in his arms. I'm confused, I don't know what to say. Isidora said. It's okay. Let's try to communicate not as master and housekeeper, but as man and woman. If it doesn't work out, I'll raise Julio like a grandson. Otherwise, like a son, he tossed the boy up, and he shouted with joy. When he said that, the couple was coming down the hall. When Cristina heard those words, it seemed like she was going to faint. Let's go, what are you waiting for? Diego said to her. Fuck off, she looked at him with contempt. Yeah, I chose the wrong guy, she said aloud. Are you still here? The owner of the house turned to her. Don't worry, we will leave now. I wish you all the worst things, she muttered, looking at Isidora. And I wish you happiness, the girl muttered and smiled. When the couple left the house, the father heard that there was some quarrel going on outside. He came out. What is going on? He looked at the driver and his son. He doesn't give me the car. Diego was almost crying. He doesn't have to, Otilio said calmly. What am I supposed to do? Diego said pleadingly. Do what everyone else does. Study, work, learn to respect people, and maybe you'll achieve something. The man went back into the house. Do you want me to take a bus or what? Cristina growled. I'm afraid we can't even take a bus. I only have $10. He pulled a bill out of his pocket. It's all because of you. I don't know how I didn't realize you were a loser. She almost cried. Otilio approached Isidora. She didn't recoil or step back. So, will you give me a chance? The man asked. Yes, but let's not rush into it, she said softly. Of course. Tonight I invite you to the restaurant. He kissed her hand. I agree. I hope you don't mind the gray color. She meant her dress. I don't mind. But promise me you'll let me buy something new for you later. He smiled and looked at her. Otilio went to his office and Isidora went to her room. Each was thinking about the upcoming night and the fact that maybe the story with Cristina might not be over yet, and she would still show up in their lives one day.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.